Hey guys, welcome back to Hair Loss Hope. I'm David DeMuzio, and today we have Rolandus, who's got a great hair transplant channel here on YouTube. I came across it and was super impressed with the amount of extensive research that he's done and his results. And so I wanted to ask Rolandus, what are the things that you see people making the biggest mistakes when they're like first researching hair transplants, and also the mistake that you feel like you avoided because you do so much research, so much more than most people, and great research. That's why I was really impressed by your channel, and it seems like at this point you have an extremely well-rounded idea of hair transplants and how they work. And what are those things that you feel like people might trip up on but you've been able to avoid?
The absolute number one mistake I've seen people are doing, and I almost did it myself, is not trying preventive medications before undergoing hair transplant. Like I've seen
Yes.
so many people are doing the same mistake. They just thinking hair transplant, it's pretty much like a cure for baldness. Like, I lost the hair, I can replace it with hair transplant, and job's done, move on with my life. But the reality is, even after the transplant, as soon as they're gonna mature in the year of time, they might possibly lose even more hair behind it. So they're gonna be either in square one, or even in a worse situation, having like in the front like a thick patch of hair and like nothing behind it. Obviously, not everyone is gonna be that extreme, but I think it's really important. People kind of neglect, I notice nowadays, the medical treatments basically. So for me, it was the same. I knew about finasteride for 5 years before I actually started it. So I was at the time Norwood 2.5, as they say, Norwood 3, and I obviously started losing more hair. So I was thinking, okay, what can I do to like prevent further hair loss? So I started researching online. Obviously, I found the drug finasteride. Then I found a lot of scaremongering about the drug, like we all know that you're pretty much gonna die and so on and so forth. So I obviously was put off from even trying it. So I was into like natural remedies. I've tried pretty much everything you can name it, topical, so palmetto even, and I avoided it until I reached Norwood 5. Like, so imagine how much hair could have been saved. So so far I think that's one of my biggest regrets in terms of medical treatment, but thanks God I decided not to undergo hair transplant, and I decided to actually start finasteride for at least 6 months before the surgery. So a couple of good surgeons during my research advised me that you have to start finasteride. You have aggressive male pattern baldness, and you have to stabilize it before even considering hair transplant. So at first I was denying this option. I started minoxidil with microneedling for 6 months. It was working well, kind of, but it was not, tackling the underlying condition. Uh, and then some of the surgeons actually completely said, okay, I'm not going to be doing your surgery at all if you're not going to start finasteride. So I was like, okay, you know what? It's interesting. Why some of this, most of the like clinics wouldn't mind to operate on me, but some of the good ones that I contacted, they said like point blank, no, I'm sorry, again, I'm not gonna do it. So I started looking again closely into finasteride, and I decided, you know what, I'm gonna try it at least by microdosing and give myself a fighting chance against hair loss, because if not that, like minoxidil is not really working long term. So I decided to do it, popped on first pill, fine, second pill, fine, and slowly build this confidence. And now I'm like 17 months on finasteride 1 milligram a day, and it's fine. It's absolutely amazing. And obviously I had the hair transplant done almost 12 months ago, so I've been 6 months on the full medication. That's what a lot of surgeons recommend, and I always say to guys, like, try it out. At least try. If you got side effects, you just stop using it, and most likely everything is gonna be fine, gonna go back to normal. So at least that doesn't work. Or otherwise you're just gonna lose more hair like me, and gonna be your biggest regret. The other thing I would, as I mentioned in the previous video, that it's important to choose the right surgeon. If someone is doing a lot of hair transplants every day, it does not mean they are good at it. That's like one of the biggest misconceptions. Or if again, the same Turkish clinics, the Turkish market is the biggest and they're doing the most hair transplants a year, so they must be good at it. That's like the biggest basically misconception, but it's not true. If you're doing something in a wrong way over and over again, it does not mean you're gonna, magically start doing it better. It just means you're gonna be better at doing the wrong thing. Important to find a good place that does the least amount of surgeries per day, so you can compare the consistency. So I almost went to some of the clinics that been doing multiple surgeries a day. I almost pulled the trigger after just 1 month of my research. I was like thinking, okay, you know what? I've done research every day for a whole month. I know it all. The more I started researching, the more I realized that there is such a big world out there and I really don't know anything. So the more I was digging into it, the more I realized that I have to step back, check my options. So that's why I started using finasteride, and that's when I started, I learned more about hair transplant, how it's done, what's the safest approach towards, hair transplant in patients like me, for example, who needs big amount of, grafts transplanted. So for Norwood 5, you would need 5, 6, maybe even 7,000 grafts for a really, really good result. So it's not possible in one surgery. So I feel like I dodged this bullet, but I was really close to to booking the surgery twice after 1 month, and then it was after 6 months, I think, if I recall correctly. But something was stopping me, and I don't know. I just had this good gut feeling, and yeah, I think that's something I almost did, and thanks God I didn't. So far, I think I did all the right choices.
Most of the people that I talk to, it seems like they're not going to make the right choices, And so that's what makes me so happy when I saw your videos and I saw that you'd made all the right choices and you've done this extensive research that had led you to the truth, as much as there's unless there's a truth, there kind of is, I mean, this is medicine and science, we're not talking about, art, though there is an artistic aspect, of course, to hair transplants, but there is a truth, about hair transplants, about these things that you're saying, about how it is the surgeon. And most of the marketing does not lead us towards the truth. And what's kind of tough, I'm sure, as you've realized, is even the good surgeons have to use kind of misleading marketing at this point, because they're competing with just total BS, right? So when you go to a lot of you'll go to a lot of excellent surgeons websites, and they'll have stuff all about whatever that machine is that they're using. And even though this surgeon knows actually this machine doesn't matter, I'm not even going to use that machine that I'm advertising on my web page web page to do that person's surgery, I still have to put up this new machine because they want to see that I've got that, because that's what everyone is marketing as being the thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the problem right now in the industry. The biggest marketing is pretty much misleading marketing. It's not the reality. And so if you want to survive in this ecosystem, you have to adapt. You have to start using the similar marketing to attract people. And to me, it's pretty bad. I'm interacting a lot with people on different forums, on Facebook groups, etc. And I see it pretty much on a daily basis. People are coming in and, okay, so what shall I go for? FE or DHI? Have you considered FUT? Oh, what's FUT? Or the guy, a Slick Bolt Norwood 7. I don't know which FE clinic should, man, first of all, it's not the best way to do a hair transplant at all for you. But if you would decide to do, FUT would be the only choice, basically. If you ask me, of course, I'm not a expert or anything, but we all know with FUT, that's the best. You can extract the most amount of graft for a bigger case. So it's crazy. This industry just becomes pretty bad.
Yeah, regarding FUE, FUT, that whole thing, I know there were a lot of excellent FUT surgeons who did FUT that now just don't even offer it anymore, just simply because of all the bad marketing against FUT. They've told me, yeah, I just stopped doing FUT. It was great, but people just didn't want it anymore. So I just stopped offering it.
Yeah. They have to adapt, and it's pretty bad. And then you see these people, they go into this clinics after 2 weeks of research, because they've seen 10 cases online. Apparently, that's their extensive research. They went to Google best hair transplant in Turkey. Like, that's their extensive research. And then you see them after 1 month, they're coming back to the forums, and they're putting a picture of their donor area, and they asking, oh guys, I'm worried, like I think I've been over harvested. And you know, like when you saw this guy posting for the first time, you knew what's gonna happen, only because you know where he's going, how he did his research. So sadly, that's all because of the marketing. Like that, they're trying to make it look like it's a commodity.
I had a guy come up to me in the gym the other day, and he had his phone out like this, and he goes, "Hey, is this you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh, I've been watching your hair transplant videos. I just went and got a hair transplant in Turkey." And I said, "So have you been watching the videos after you got your hair transplant in Turkey, or did you watch them before?" And he goes, "I started watching them after." And he was kind of saying, after I started watching your videos, I realized maybe I didn't exactly make the right decision. And he took me through his whole kind of decision-making process. And gosh, it was like, it like made my heart hurt, sitting there. Cause I'm like, man, if this guy had just watched my videos a couple weeks before, he might have been sort of saved. And now he had this moth-eaten kind of look in the back of his head. He told me he got 5,000 grafts. I use grafts in quotes because we all know that 5,000 doesn't mean 5,000 grow. And, he's about to go get married. So he wanted to rush it before he got married because he wanted them for the wedding photos and everything. So, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, but I got like a good deal," because they did it over 2 days, and they like didn't charge me for like the extra, 1,500 grafts. He's like, they're like up to like, you only pay for 3,000, but we'll do up to 5,000 or something like that. And I'm like, man, I said, yeah, it's just a nightmare.
When it sounds that it's too good to be true, it probably is. So you always have to, like I always say to, if like so many people actually contacted me privately, and I always tell them, like, listen, every single surgeon or every single clinic wants you to be in their chair. Always remember that. You are the boss. You have to choose where you're gonna go. You don't like you really have only truly one shot to make it or break it, basically, if you think about it. Like, you have only one donor. So again, during my initial research, that's what I realized. Like, okay, there's only one donor. If I screw it up, I'm done. Like, I'm really jealous for the guys that their final Norwood pattern, it's for example 3 or 4. They don't need a big area to cover, so they can make mistakes if it makes sense, although it's not the best way to go about it. But for me, I really need to be strategic with every single graft and treat it as a goal. So I realized I didn't even had enough money at that time to even afford my surgeon that I went to. So I decided to stop and even save longer while I was keep doing my research. And I think so far I've done a really, really, really good choice. Like, I'm absolutely happy with my results so far. And considering I even had so much popping happening during my surgery, so it's like a kind of complication when it's done with the DHM implanters. And like on the first surgical day was around 80%. So I was already like feeling, okay, you know what? If it's not gonna grow, it is what it is. There is no chance, there is no guarantees in any surgery, but turns out it looks pretty good. So, I'm happy. And I'm sure if I would went to some other cheaper place that are not as, let's say, specialized in this, they would just try to push it back and pretty much destroy the whole graft. And I'm pretty sure I would not have this growth. So, it's another thing. There are no guarantees.
It's great learning from you. You guys make sure that you check out Rolandas's channel, because some of the best videos on hair transplants, super honest, straightforward, very smart, very well-researched guy. So I really appreciate everything that you're doing.
Pleasure to talk to you, David. Like I said to you before, I started with watching your videos as well, because you've been the first one that, documented it. So it was funny. I never even thought about it, that I would have even a pleasure to, at some point in the future, to even talk to you, like one-on-one. So that's crazy how everything can change quickly. So appreciate your videos and everything you've done, basically. so far, and just keep doing what you're doing. It's highly appreciated. A lot of people been helped, no doubt. At least I was. So thank you.